All right, we've got so much breaking news to tell you about in the trial of Zoe Rosenberg. There she is getting arrested back in November 2023. Her case is being heard right now. It's the defense case. And there was a bombshell yesterday. And that's why it was picked up by mainstream media, which shows that the mainstream media is watching, even if they don't report every day. But the Press Democrat reports former DXC member says she alone led the Petaluma poultry break-ins tied to the Zoe Rosenberg case, essentially saying that it wasn't the defendant's idea. And that's really important because the defendant is charged with felony conspiracy. That's the most significant charge. The others are misdemeanors, a couple of trespass, a vehicle tampering. That's not what's going to do her a lot of time behind bars. What's going to do her a lot of time behind bars if convicted is the felony. So we're going to talk to an attorney about whether this is, a witness for the defense pointing the finger at herself, essentially saying, look at me. I was the one who cooked this all up. That could help the defense say, basically, Zoe should not be charged with conspiracy. Let's go straight out to the courthouse. Matthew Zierbold, you are there. Raven Deerbrook, this defense witness who is an undercover investigator, still on the stand. What stands out to you about the significance of this coverage?
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be very informative to the jury about who was doing the initial investigation, who led all of the data gathering. I don't think that she's testified that everything that happened at the slaughterhouse was all because of her. And so the prosecution still has some ability to argue that, maybe Zoe led the rescue bit while Raven led the investigation. We'll see how far they go into that once Zoe takes the stand directly, though.
When do you expect Zoe to take the stand? I mean, that's the big moment. Here we are. This is day 19. Day 19 of a trial involving 4 chickens removed from a slaughterhouse. I don't even know if this is in the millions of taxpayer dollars, okay? And if those 4 chickens were healthy, they'd be worth about $24. In other words, people going in and buying dead chickens in a supermarket, 4 chickens, about $24. Let's be extravagant and say $30. But imagine how much it's cost day after day, taxpayers, to have this trial over those 4 chickens. So the big moment is going to be when the defendant herself takes a stand. And we say if, because even though we think it's very likely, you can never predict. I always say with these big trials, never assume. That's the first rule of journalism to begin with. But Matthew, what does it look like?
Yeah, so Raven has thus far gone through her direct testimony, and now she's in cross-examination. After that will be redirect, which means the defense gets to once again talk to her, and then there can be recross. So there is fewer things each time, but we're most of the way, I believe, through the cross-examination. So Raven's testimony, good odds of it being over today, and I believe the expected plan is that Zoe will take the stand afterwards. So most likely that'll be possibly today, and certainly or good odds on her taking the stand on Monday, at least. And then her testimony could be for quite a while. There's been a lot of things that the prosecution wants to get in that will depend on what specifically Zoe says. So there'll be a lot of hearings outside the presence of the jury between Zoe's direct testimony and her cross-examination.
And just to bring everybody up to date, this is what Zoe herself said about this case. There's the defendant. Prosecutors will try to tell a story of a radical criminal who steals animals from hardworking businesses. We will tell the stories of 4 little chickens who faced unimaginable pain. Their names are Poppy, Ivy, Aster, and Azalea. So just before we leave you, what is the mood amongst how many supporters are still there? Because we know there have been a lot of supporters, up to 50 at any one time. What is their mood? Is there a sense of growing tension? What I've noticed covering many big cases is as the case drags on, the tension, the suspense gets more and more intense. Tell us.
Yeah, there's a lot of tension. We have, I think, about 10 to 15 supporters today, but on varying days, including like the first day of Raven's testimony, we've had a couple dozen supporters. And it's a big question of, what's going to come in and the importance of each bit of testimony that's allowed to be presented raises every time one thing comes up, because it's important to know whether we'll be able to really rebut it. So people are very worried about, what it is that Zoe will be able to testify to, how much it'll all be able to come off to the jury. It's very unclear, everybody or most people here have a lot of context on the whole situation with the slaughterhouse, the totality of things that have happened, but to know what the jury is really able to see is very difficult to tell through the very narrow lens that they get in the courthouse.
Okay, I have one final question. When you're looking at these jurors, and as you're our reporter, do you get a sense? I mean, I've watched jurors in big cases where I could see that some people are sympathetic, some people have tears in their eyes, some people look bored, some people roll their eyes. Can you give us any sense of what these jurors, the 7 men, 5 women, and then there's alternates. What's your observation of these people?
Unfortunately, they're a bit hard to get a read on. They are mostly pretty intent, pretty focused. Some of them, I think, are smiling at the supporters as they walk by. And they're all seem like very friendly people, but we're not able to talk to them to get a more direct sense. I will say when the prosecution talks, they tend to go for a long time and jump between different points. And I know from supporters, a lot of them feel kind of bored after a while. And that has also been my sense of the jury, is they kind of losing track of what exactly is going on. But some of our defense lawyers are really good at being very on point, being very drawing people in very well as they talk. And so I have also noticed the jury paying really direct attention while the defense is talking.
Excellent reporting. Thank you so much, Matthew. Go ahead.
Before we lose Matthew, I just wanted to hear more about the images shown to the jury during Raven's testimony. I read that she had talked about images she took during her investigation, and the jury was able to see some of the images from the slaughterhouse. Is that correct? And would you be able to elaborate on that, Matthew, before you go? Oh, we lost him.
Matthew? Oh, well. Those are very good questions. He might come back.
Okay, well, again, we'll have to stay tuned. But I read that the jury was allowed to see some of the footage from the slaughterhouse.
Yes, and a picture tells 1,000 words. Excellent point from our attorney who is here today, Justine Block. And I just want to say a bunch of stuff real quick. First of all, we've got a global audience. We have people who are watching from Tel Aviv. Here's somebody from Tel Aviv. People are all over the place sharing out. We appreciate everybody. Share. When people say they've reposted this stream, hallelujah. Because what we're doing here is replicating what I used to do when I was on Court TV and CNN Headline News, and that's trial analysis. But we don't have the backing of a $1 billion conglomerate behind us. We have the people power. Share out. Okay, so let's do a little round robin on all of this. We should start with our attorney. The significance, Justine, of this witness, Raven Deerbrook, who is a very famous animal cruelty investigator who's been written up in the New York Times and all sorts of places, taking the stand and, according to the press Democrat, saying, hey, look at me. I'm the one responsible, not the defendant. Don't convict her. Well, this woman's already made a plea deal, so she's in a great position to do that.
Absolutely. I think that this is really important testimony for the defense. It helps with shedding a reasonable doubt on Zoe's role as far as the felony conspiracy charge. Remember, we talked about earlier in the week about an aggravating element that the judge had agreed to throw out as far as Zoe's leadership in the conspiracy, which would have been an aggravating factor if she's convicted of the felony conspiracy. So this helps to keep out that aggravating factor so that the prosecutors don't come back in if she is convicted and say we want the judge to reconsider and apply an aggravating factor because she had a leadership role. So this helps to say she didn't have the leadership role, although they could say it has to do with more that Raven had the leadership role in the investigation, and it's still unknown. We'll know more when Zoe testifies, assuming that she still goes on to testify, that we'll find. So it remains to be seen as far as the extent of the conspiracy, because there are elements as far as the crime itself that there needs to be an agreement to enter into the conspiracy, an intentional agreement. So that's what the prosecutors are supposed to show beyond a reasonable doubt, again, that Zoe, and the one element as far as agreeing to enter into a felony conspiracy, unfortunately, that can be shown without with an inference, without saying that she had some kind of formal agreement. It's more of an inference of an agreement. So there is some leeway for the prosecution.
Okay, so that's a good analysis, and it's very detailed. So if you're thinking, oh, that's complicated, well, it is complicated. When the jury gets their instructions, they're told about all these elements that have to be proved for something like conspiracy, which is the felony charge. Other than that, trespass, that's not going to be a victory for the prosecution. It's the conspiracy charge that everything hangs on. So let's hear what Zoe herself had to say about Raven's testimony, this key defense witness. Then we're going to get some response from our other panelists.
She told the jurors that she is testifying because she wants to share the truth about what really happened. She started to walk the jurors through her investigation, and we showed the jury footage of the slaughter line of birds flailing, and we showed them the photos of the bright cherry red birds who we believe had been scalded alive. She talked about how she personally rescued 2 birds on the morning of June 13th, and then she started to be cross-examined by the prosecutor, and then I will likely begin my testimony.
So there you have it. Lindsay Baker, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think this is really going to be a pivotal moment in terms of whether or not it shows the felony conspiracy charge will hold, because the initial investigation was done by Raven, which means that it doesn't show premeditation by Zoe. And in fact, she only became more concerned after speaking, according to the way I hear this, after speaking to Raven, where she personally acted. And that's when she found those chickens and felt the need to rescue them. So it's quite a different kind of story. And again, it seems to me, going back to your point yesterday, Jane, about the cameras, when I was reading the article, let me step back a moment. I read the article, and it was saying that that the prosecution was alluding that Zoe was involved from the beginning. But if she was involved, wouldn't she be on cameras? Don't they have cameras that show everybody that comes in and out of there? And if they don't, imagine what could be going on behind closed doors that even the corporation doesn't know about.
Well, what you're referring to is, and I'll say it right now, you just heard Zoe Rosenberg say that in her belief, there is intense cruelty going on in this facility. And then you have the company itself, Purdue's Petaluma Poultry, that says they have no cruelty, that they have the highest animal welfare standards. This is a screenshot from their website. We urge everybody, do your own investigation. Go to corporate.purduefarms.com/responsibility/animal-care and look at what the company says. And also, here is a statement saying they have the highest standards of animal care and give our birds space to roam, access to the outdoors, and says the claims by DXC are false and that they're an extreme group with a radical agenda. Now, a couple of things we pointed out yesterday. It says no cages or crates. That's there, right there on the Purdue website. And we invite Purdue on any time. We would love to dialogue with them. But here is video of the actual alleged crime in progress. There is Zoe rescuing the 4 chickens. What is she doing? What is she doing? She is opening a crate, I think anybody in, would say this is a crate, and those animals are packed into that crate. So these are some of the contradictions. Essentially, what we have is two completely different interpretations of the same event, the same situations, the same facilities. This is why Unchained TV, and we announced this yesterday, we are calling for federal legislation to have live video cameras in all animal facilities. That's what we're calling for. That is our suggestion. If you took anything, a situation like this, and it's two people, and two people are saying, you know what happened in that house was XYZ, and somebody says, no, what happened in that house is XYZ, and you'd say, look, this is an ongoing situation. If we want to find out what's really happening, let's put cameras in there. Let's put cameras in and see. What is your reaction to this suggestion, Annie Abram? You're with the Paul Watson Foundation. Paul Watson, a famous animal activist, famous from whale wars. What do you think?
I think I totally agree with you, Jane. If they really want accountability or to see the truth, at least where the camera captures, they need to have at least a minimum of cameras. In addition to the fact that, as you said, the change of language must be, happening, because they're saying there's no crates, and it's so clear these animals are pushed into crates, and they're stuffed like you would stuff your clothing or something else. Even worse than that, it's even hard to open. These poor animals, the suffering they're going through, the horror, they're in such miserable situation. Obviously, if I was in the place of Zoe, I would have reacted the same way. These horrors that are happening to these animals are unbelievable. It's worse than any nightmare one can have. So there's no denying it. Look at, she's struggling even to open the crate. And the way these poor animals are stuffed in, I wouldn't put my papers in there. Let's say papers and pencils. So hard to open and crammed in. This is outrageous. So
given
definitely.
that there is such a discrepancy, this is why for 19 days now, we've been covering this trial. And every single day we report on this discrepancy, two radically opposing descriptions of the same thing. And that is why, as of yesterday, we are calling for federal law requiring live cameras in all animal facilities. And you know what? Let me say that since California is the fourth largest economy in the world, and a lot of things start in California, I'm going to change it to just a law. I already spoke to somebody this morning who is runs an organization that proposes a lot of legislation in Sacramento with tremendous success. I was told that something like this was suggested years and years ago, but before the technology made it real easy. So years and years ago, somebody suggested, and there was a proposal to pass a law to have cameras in all slaughterhouses and factory farms, and it was defeated. But today, we got a different situation. Cameras are everywhere. Cameras are recording us when we're driving down the street. Cameras are ubiquitous, and they're very light, and they're very cheap, and they're easy to install. To wit, Raven Deerbrook, the witness, says she installed cameras inside this facility. She's acknowledging that. So if the industry doesn't like people sneaking into their facility and installing cameras, guess what? Have the cameras installed, have it live, have it, since this taxpayers subsidize animal agriculture to the tune of many, many billions through the farm bill, through insurance, repayments, et cetera, et cetera. It should be live for every single consumer and citizen in the United States to look at. What do you think, Michael Fujimori of the Paul Watson Foundation?
I totally agree, Jane, because I know that these businesses probably have cameras outside the facility to see if anybody's going to break in or do any vandalism. But inside, there has to be transparency, because we've all seen videos online of slaughterhouse workers torturing and kicking and abusing animals. So if animal cruelty laws are to be enforced, these cameras are necessary.
And everybody who's commenting here seems to think it's a great idea. So we're moving forward on it. We already had a meeting. And, you know, the question obviously is, can we get anybody to sponsor that law, that proposed law here in California? But California has always led the way. Nobody thought that California would get the Cruelty-Free Cosmetics Act passed, and they did. And that led to cruelty-free cosmetics globally, because, again, we are the fourth largest economy in the world. LA County alone has more people than 40 US states. So this is the most powerful state. This battle is happening in Northern California. And what I'd like to do is play, because in the testimony with Raven Deerbrook, a lot was made about, well, what did you know about what was happening outside this slaughterhouse while you were inside on this crucial night? It was established that she was there while Zoe was rescuing those 4 chickens. She had brought the buckets. Raven had actually brought those red buckets, okay, that Zoe was putting the chickens into, according to her testimony. And the prosecutors kept asking her, well, are you the one who let people, did you know, were you standing there ready to let people in to rescue those chickens? And her testimony was very complicated, and I don't want to try to presume to summarize it. But the bottom line is that while Zoe was inside rescuing the chickens and Raven was in there as well, there were people outside, and chickens got rescued, and more than the 4 chickens were rescued. So Unchained TV, and myself included, we were outside covering that protest. We were doing an entire series, which you can watch on Unchained TV, called Night Action, Undercover of Darkness. So I'm going to play a little bit of that for you, and then you can see what was happening outside at the very moment that things were going on inside the slaughterhouse. Check it out. And let me do one thing first. And again, this is tech. Oh, you're back. Matthew is back. Okay. I didn't think you were there. Thank you. Well, while we have you, because you're going to go in a second, correct me if I'm wrong, but the testimony had prosecutors asking Raven about, well, you're on the inside while these protesters are on the outside. We're going to play that in a moment. But did you let them in? Can you tell us what was happening in that regard?
Yeah, they were trying to, I guess, essentially accuse her of some conspiracy or get her to talk about some broader conspiracy. And what she said is, I got a text about that there were people outside, and that was why she let them in. I might be misremembering some of the exact details, but that was about as detailed as she went into. Unfortunately, she testified to not remembering who had sent her that text, which you could tell the prosecution didn't believe, but it's quite easy to think that 2 years later, she might not remember exactly who sent her the text.
Yeah, so she let some people who were outside in. Meanwhile, we were outside. I'm going to play now what happened from our perspective on that night, having no idea that this would ultimately become this major criminal case. So watch, and we'll talk about it on the other side. Almost 40 miles northwest to Petaluma, wondering what would happen next on this animal rights mission under cover of darkness. Upon arriving, we were soon following groups of Direct Action Everywhere activists walking towards a chicken slaughterhouse. As we neared the location, we were greeted by a line of activists holding signs that read, "Right to Rescue." Moments later, we got a real taste of what that means.
We're here, as Sasha said, with a couple hundred activists out here to support our friends and support the chickens who are suffering unimaginable cruelty inside this slaughterhouse here behind us. We're in Sonoma County. Over 200,000 chickens are slaughtered each week.
We have a rescued chicken right here. We have a life just saved from the slaughterhouse. Thank you so much for saving her. Can you tell us anything? Did you go inside? What can you tell us?
I'm speechless right now. I don't have much to say right now. I'm just speechless.
We went inside and we helped to liberate this little baby here from a truck that was going to be slaughtered very soon. There are more that are on their way out.
Wow. Please help us take action. Contact the Sonoma County District Attorney and ask that they prosecute the corporations and not the activists. And please share this live stream. Share this live stream. We need to get this out everywhere. We need to scream it across the world. We have more birds that have just been rescued.
Here's one.
We rescued the birds. They were going to die, and we know that they didn't want to die, so we took them out of the terrible situation.
Yeah, let's get them out of here.
We gotta get out of
You
here.
can see this one has blood, vomit, very sick, will barely move in my arms.
We've seen about 12 lives probably be saved. 4 before we came here, another 8 while we sat here and watched them come out. And this place doesn't like it when people are here. When people are here, it diverts the trucks to different locations. And thankfully, our friends are vigilant and they watch where the trucks go. And some of our friends just saved 5 more chickens from a truck.
Who could imagine 17 precious chickens have been rescued? I mean, I am just beyond words. And if one more is rescued tonight, that'll be even much better. And we'll see. The XC is so strong. It's unbelievable how they pulled this off.
There's nothing normal or natural about this. So this is damaging human health. This is damaging the environment. And these facilities, it's time to shut them down and stop prosecuting activists who are doing the right thing by taking sick and dying animals out of places like this and instead prosecute the companies themselves.
Of course, as police arrived, the question was, would they see the removal of chickens as rescue or theft of property? Activists argue animals are not mere property, like cans or cars, and maintain they have the legal right to rescue a suffering chicken, just as others have been hailed heroes for rescuing dogs trapped in hot cars. While there was some discussion between the cops and DXC lead organizer Paul Pickleson, no arrests were made. At a certain point, this action became a form of street theater. People began singing, reciting poetry, giving speeches, one after the other.
Let me be free, freedom from your tyranny. It's all I've ever wanted. It's all I've ever wanted. Liberation for the animals. Liberation is freeing. We're all animals, we're animals. Go on, be brave. Go out there, make history. Give justice to my life, love. Give justice to the lives lost. And every day they will try to convince you that humane murder's justified. Believe me, I don't wanna die. We're animals, we're animals.
So there is and I noticed you were emotional. Annie, why did this seem emotional to you?
Uh, um, it just makes me sad. So I've had a chicken, and a chicken never sits in your hand like that. That is such a sad existence. You could see they're physically, spiritually, emotionally distressed to a point where they cannot even chirp, move. They're such lively beings, such beautiful, beautiful beings. They are like dogs. They run to you, they want to cuddle with you, they're communicating, constantly chirping. And to see such beautiful humans, we need a society full of animal rescuers, because these people are so unselfish, so compassionate. Anyone who rescues animal puts themselves at risk in a society where they're going to be condemned. Is heroes, is what we need for the world. We need these kinds of people, not dangerous people who disregard lives. When you regard beautiful beings that are almost dead, you see the injuries, I see the wounds, I see the gashes. It hurt my heart to see these innocent beings in such disgustingly deadly situation. If they didn't rescue them, these animals were dying already. And there's
So let me say this. First of all, once again, we do invite the company on anytime. We would love to dialogue with you. They deny all cruelty allegations. Let me ask the attorney that we have here today, very lucky to have Justine Block. So you see outside, what I thought was so fascinating, because I was there that night, as you could see, is that it seemed like the police were very laissez-faire and like, okay, guys, nothing to see here. Well, we had no idea that night would basically go down in history, because now this trial is all about what was happening on the other side. You saw the protests outside. You saw the chickens that were coming from inside to outside. And the testimony today from Raven Deerbrook was essentially that she opened the door. She got a text that there were people outside willing to rescue chickens, and she opened the door. So to me, that it expands her leadership role. And I do feel like that could create problems for the prosecution, trying to paint essentially Zoe as the ringleader.
Interesting. It was such a compelling protest, and the people participating were so brave to be there and confronting police, risking their liberties and risking arrest. I'm wondering if that part of the video with the chickens coming out was asked to be admitted by the prosecution in the trial, because I know that they had asked for certain social media content to be brought in as admissions of the crime. So because you're
please don't do that. Don't give them any ideas, because somebody had suggested they're probably watching. They'll subpoena me, and then Lindsay, you'll have to take over. I hope you're paying attention. That happened to me when I was covering the Michael Jackson trial. All of a sudden, I was standing outside court and I got hit with subpoena. And it turned out that they wanted me to establish a video that the news organization I was working for at the time, Celebrity Justice, recorded at a comedy club in Hollywood, where there was talk about the accusing family going there and trying to allegedly, purportedly engage with celebrities, and they were trying to make a case. And I was only subpoenaed for like one day. In other words, they dropped the subpoena after one day, but it was quite an experience I'll never forget, where I was just standing there outside court and somebody hits me with a subpoena. So
something to be mindful of in terms of the chickens. One other thought, Jane, as far as the chickens that were brought out, are they the ones? It goes to the intent. I mean, I think it goes to that discussion we're talking about, because the laws that we're talking about, these crimes, especially the trespass, that there's 2 trespass charges, but one has to do with interfering with the property rights and the business. That those kind of laws were lobbied by Animal Ag. Let's put this in the bigger perspective here of these laws she's being charged with have a lot to do with what Animal Ag has lobbied for over the years of making sure to keep activists out of the slaughterhouses and factory farms, and being able to have the legal system have the laws in place to charge them with trespass and interfering with these types of businesses where animals are kept. So it goes to kind of the bigger picture. You were talking about legislation, so that would be huge to be able to have cameras in the slaughterhouses too, because you're up against very powerful animal ag industry that's already kind of taken the charge over many years to have these laws in place that they use against the activists. Instead, we should be working on getting laws in place to get cameras in there to make sure resources are dedicated to investigating animal cruelty. So we've seen a few times on the stand with the officer when he was asked about investigations, he didn't investigate. He said he was more worried about sanitation. So where is the law enforcement when you need them to investigate accusations of animal cruelty?
Well, they're not there. They're not investigating. One of the reasons why some animal rights organizations say they don't want to pass these incremental laws to increase, that supposedly increase the welfare of the animals, Lindsay, is that they feel that it makes people feel better about buying these products, but that nothing really happens because nobody's seeing what happens behind closed doors, A, and B, authorities never investigate when people say, hey, those animal cruelty laws you passed, they're being violated. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's the whole point of what our proposal is, that we get cameras in there so that this is taken care of. That would take care of the problem. And if these companies are indeed doing what they say they're doing on their website, I also want to say for the people that are paying extra money for this free, so-called free range, that alone, let's see how much time these chickens are allowed to roam outside in a bucolic situation like we see on their brochures. So surely every aspect of this, at least from my point of view and from what I'm seeing, is a cover up. I mean, it seems like they're trying to cover up the truth, and they're trying to make mercy a felony. And it's just a change of perception that we have to help bring about by letting people actually see this, letting a human being that looks at this, any normal human being, is going to be horrified. This is your free range chicken? I mean, it's just absurd. It's to the point where I don't even know what to say.
Well, you're looking at footage provided by Direct Action Everywhere, which the company and the industry says is a radical organization with an extreme agenda to eliminate animal agriculture. And, that's the one thing that they agree on. Direct Action Everywhere is very vocal about saying, yes, we want to eliminate animal agriculture. We don't think it's necessary. We think it's a leading cause of unnecessary animal suffering, climate change due to methane, as well as human health problems. So, that's what they can both agree on. They do agree, both sides agree, that Direct Action Everywhere, the organization that the defendant is involved with as an animal cruelty investigator, agrees they want to end animal agriculture. And the industry is saying they're an extreme organization. They want to end animal agriculture. The question is, what is extreme? And that's why this case is so important. It is so important because it is a culture war. It is a battle over beliefs. And it is a battle over what is acceptable. And society does change its notion of what's acceptable and what's a standard belief over time. We all know that. We all know, and I just finished watching this series of documentaries about the Victorian era, where in the early Victorian era, child labor was everywhere, and it was considered extreme to be opposed to it. As industrialization occurred and people ran from their farms into the cities to get work, and they were working, the children were working, and it was considered extreme by a lot of people in the mainstream to say that, oh, these children should not be allowed to work. So that's just an example of a battle over beliefs, a battle over culture, a battle over what's okay and what isn't okay. And laws had to be changed and enacted regarding children for the culture to change, which is why I think the answer is, in this 21st century modern world, cameras is the obvious answer to me. Cameras inside these facilities, live cameras, anybody with a phone or with a laptop can go in and see what's going on. And you know what? Unshade TV would also create a category in our streaming network, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we would stream it. We could stream it. You could see exactly what's happening. So final thoughts, everybody. This has been a very compelling afternoon. We know that the defendant herself, Zoe Rosenberg, is the next one that's going to take the stand. I have to check the ex-Purdue rescue trial feed to see if that's happened yet. I don't think so, but it could be any moment. So come back on Monday. Please, final thoughts from everybody. We'll let our attorneys start it off.
Thanks, Jane, for making sure to have coverage of the trial, and happy to be here with all the other panelists. Look forward to Zoe's testimony.
Thank you. Michael Fujimori of the Paul Watson Foundation.
Yes, I'd like to just close by saying that I think Raven's testimony is proof of what is going on in these slaughterhouses, contrary to what animal agriculture would lead you to believe. She actually went in there and she got evidence, video evidence of what they are saying is not occurring. So I think her testimony is very crucial. And one more thing, Jane, using the word extreme, I think animal activists are not extreme. I think what is extreme is killing sentient beings, torturing, abusing, and slaughtering them. That's what's extreme.
All right. Thank you for that. And we're going to go to Annie Abram. Final thoughts for today.
I agree with all that's been said. And again, it's essential that your voice, your Unchained TV, everybody tune in and follow. This heartbreaking condition of the animals truly needs to be exposed to the people. When we buy apples, we like to know the source. When we buy, anything, we want to know the source of suffering, the source of the process of all this is being fooled. People are believing what they're seeing, and it's being written by those who are the perpetrators. We need exposure. We need accountability. We need to end the heartbreaking horrors. And Zoe is a hero. So is, I mean, when they go in, they put their lives in a situation that's a very unselfish act. Let's not forget that. If I put my freedom, my rights, my safety, that's a beautiful thing. So we thank you for following, everybody, and I hope the jury sees this. So does the judge and
all right.
the whole system.
And Lindsay, final thought on mute. There you go. Go ahead.
I think the day that we can see inside these facilities is the day these trials won't be necessary. And I think transparency is key here.
All right. Thank you. Incredible panel. Remember, it could happen any minute. Zoe Rosenberg, the defendant, could take the stand. Extremely exciting. I personally have covered a lot of trials, and as we get to the end, they get more and more intense. So I can tell you, next Monday is going to be a big day. I urge everybody, join us, share out, be a part of history. Every comment, every share empowers this conversation. And we're having this conversation because we are a 501c3 nonprofit news and entertainment network to encourage the sustainable, cruelty-free, plant-based lifestyle. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. You can check us out at unchained.tv. You can download us for free on your phone. And you can also get us with streaming devices on your television, like Fire TV, Roku TV, that kind of thing. So please, let's together keep having these crucial conversations. See you Monday.